All right, we're alive, guys.
Tim, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Good. I love your mic, and I can hear how low your voice is.
All right.
So, all right. So, for people that don't know, you still have the Guinness World Book of Records,
Right.
lowest voice, and the widest.
Right.
Does that record still holds? Correct.
As far as I know, I don't check it every day, but
No.
yeah. So as far as I know, I haven't heard about anybody
Beating it.
Anybody breaking it.
So I watched a video the other day. They had your voice, and I don't know if it was even a joke, Tim. They showed it at like 7 hertz, but you listen to it and there's nothing there, of course. Did you see it?
Yeah, I haven't seen that video.
Oh my God, it's funny. It's like Tim Storms, in the infrasonic sound range, and it shows the different hertz levels, but there's nothing on the tape. It's
right. Yeah, and that's really when you get down that low, it's below the threshold of human hearing. So when you get down that low, it's just vibration.
Yeah, but I want to know, do you ever go to the zoo and mess with the animals a bit?
I'd be lying if I said I hadn't tried. There've been elephant enclosures, and I don't even remember what zoo it was at, but I was maybe 30 feet away from the elephants, and you tried to vocalize a little bit and do some low stuff, and the difference between humans and elephants is they have so much lung capacity and the ability to project those low frequencies over. I think they can communicate at like 25 miles or something like that. It's crazy, but just the way God built them is just so amazing, and their ability to project those low frequencies. So, I try to do my frequencies and they're like, yeah, right.
So there's no reaction.
No, none at all.
Noticed.
None at all.
But you don't know what they're thinking.
Yeah, true. Yeah. I might've been, saying something they didn't like. I don't know.
Yeah, it's crazy. First off, I was going to mention too, sorry we're late. We had some technical issues and had to boot some computers up, and it took a bit, but anyhow, we're here now. So let's talk a little bit about Infrasound. Maybe you can explain. I know anything below 20 hertz, and why don't you take over from there?
Yeah.
And explain, literally, as far as I know, aren't you the only human that can get below 20 hertz?
No.
Oh,
There are, quite a few guys out there that can get below 20 hertz. And just for reference, so people know, what 20 hertz is and where it's at. Hertz is the measurement of sound waves, and the bottom of the piano is right around, is it 29 hertz?
Yeah,
or
which is within our range.
Yeah. And so, that's about an octave, close to an octave above, what the human hearing can hear. So then 20 hertz is, nearing an octave below the piano, and and it's not absolute. There are some humans that can hear below that.
Cool.
And maybe some humans that can't quite hear down that far, but I tested my own hearing. My wife might disagree, but I can hear, just in my own testing, I can hear almost down to 4 and 5 hertz.
Really?
And is it hearing or is it feeling the pressure waves?
Right. Because how do you test yourself?
Right. So it's with earphones in or headphones on or whatever. And, listening to the frequencies as they go down, and, and it gets to a point where then I can't hear it anymore. But yeah, it's just, when you get down that low, it's just vibration. It gets to a point where it's not even really musical. You can't really use it in music, because especially with the human voice, because it gets to a point where it's more rhythmic than it is, than it is a musical note.
Well, I read the most fantastic thing about you.
Oh,
that you could vibrate your vocal cords down to one time per, was it 5 seconds? Is that correct?
yeah. It's the actual frequency is 0.189 hertz.
That you can get down to.
Yeah, so it's less than 1 hertz, and I guess closer to 0 hertz than it is anything else. But and yeah, if you take that frequency and put it on a graph or whatever, it's really long waveform. And yeah, it's about a piano. About a piano below the piano.
But so the vocal cords just going once every 5 seconds?
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's your vocal cords are essentially a muscle.
Mm-hmm.
You have arytenoid muscles that control the movement of your vocal cords. And I guess I have a little bit more movement to mine, from what a ear, nose, and throat specialist told me. A couple of them did, that I've got more movement to my arytenoid muscles, which allows me to, I guess, be able to control those low notes a little bit more. And
have you ever wondered though, why were you born that way? I mean, is it a genetic holdback? Who knows?
Well, what's funny is I'm really the only one in my family that has a low voice like that. And I always looked at it as, God gave me a gift, and it's up to me to figure out how to use that gift. I try to use it the best I can and, use it for him and take care of it the best I can.
Right. Well, for those that haven't read your bio, you were even voted best bassist vocalist for Branson, Missouri.
Oh yeah, I performed in Branson for many years, a couple different stints, but they have their own, music awards show every year, and I won the bass vocalist. I think, what was it, 4 years in a row or something like that. And
oh, that's cool.
So,
did you ever have anything weird happen when you were singing and performing and you're low? Because if I would have been the promoter who had you and had hired you to perform, I would have made you do, super sound tricks. I would have had you perform magic with your voice. Did you do any of that?
Oh man, I've sang a lot of years on stage, and there's been a lot of instances where, weird stuff happened with my voice, or, your voice cracks or whatever, which is always great. There was one concert in, oh man, I don't remember. It was some town in California. I was singing with an a cappella group called Rescue. And it was in a church that had really, really high ceilings, and it was like stadium seating style venue. And they had recessed lighting in the ceiling, and the recessed lighting had like circular metal frames with glass in it, and they were made to rotate, and so that they could clean them or something. I don't know, change the light bulb. And as we're doing our concert, and it's all a cappella, it's all vocal. And we had really good subwoofers, really good sound system.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're going to tell me. Go ahead.
It started, a lot of the bass notes, it started resonating to the point. I don't know if it was matching the frequency of the building, like the resonant frequency or what, but it was resonating and vibrating the ceiling light fixtures to where one of them it was about to fall. It came loose, and we kind of kept looking at it. So we told the people in that section they might want to move because we couldn't reach it to fix it. But there's been once or twice where I've had subwoofers blow up. did a concert in Jamaica. This was back in 95, Kingston, Jamaica. And reggae music, 60 hertz drives the music, right? And back then their sound men, they would take 60 hertz and bump it, just kind of as a general rule, take 60 hertz and bump it, on the sound system. And one of the songs that we sang, I did a low bass lead, and the low note on the song was right around 55, 60 hertz, somewhere in there. And every time, because they had that frequency kind of cranked, every time I would hit that note, I'd just have to barely hit the note and the sound system would carry it. And so it made it really easy to sing that song. And then we get to the last note of the song, and I just hit it full voice and real hard, and it just, wow, it was huge. And there were a cabinet on the left side, dual 18 subwoofers, and they slapped the front of the grill and caught fire.
Oh no.
I was like, oh man, they're going to be mad at me. Well, the sound men in the back, they're going, yeah, man, yeah. They were so excited.
Oh my God.
And
that's amazing.
It was funny. It was funny.
So you've obviously heard, I'm sure you've read on your own, because you hear about infrasound being connected to maybe Bigfoot. So nobody knows.
Yeah.
It's theory, but there's been so many people that have felt like they've been zapped. They haven't seen anything, but they're in the woods, they're using their chainsaw and they're cutting wood, and all of a sudden they get this dreadful feeling come over them, like they need to leave now. Or this anxiety. And I'll bet you one person a week that relays a story like that.
Yeah.
And so there has to be more than just fiction here. There was an experience that happened to a good friend of mine who was, highly trained woodsman, outdoorsman, never had an issue. And one day he was retrieving camera traps with another buddy of mine. And all of a sudden he started walking in circles, Tim.
Right.
He was so confused. He didn't know his name. He didn't know where he was. They had to get him out of the woods and get him back to his car. And then he was like, why am I in my car? He did no memories.
Wow.
And it was like he was zapped. And the reason they were there was they were doing Bigfoot research.
Yeah.
So that's you kind of, when you hear it over and over and over, you go,
story after story.
Something to it.
Right.
And so what are your thoughts on your infrasound and effects on people? What do you know that our audience may not know?
I've infrasound, the difference between infrasound, I've infrasound and higher frequencies is infrasound is omnidirectional, right? You hit a low base frequency and it's going to go everywhere all at once, whereas higher sounds are more directional. They'll go forward and kind of out, right? So infrasound, it will vibrate through walls, through floors, through the ground. You feel it in your chest. That's one of the reasons I love bass so much is it just thumps you in the chest. When I hear a chopper, a helicopter fly by, especially one of these bigger ones with that real low thump, 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 thump. And I'm just like, oh yeah. I just hear those low frequencies and I just dig it. But infrasound can really, you can, if you can match the resonant frequency of a building for loud enough and long enough, you can bring a building down. With infrasound. It's super powerful. And I've had my own experiences with with infrasound and I mean there was one concert that we did, and this church that we sing at, they kind of had a homemade subwoofer, I guess. It was loaded with Rankis Hines subwoofers, and they made this cabinet that was probably 6 feet by 4 feet, and just this massive cabinet off to the side of the stage. And it was one of those things where anytime you would hit a really, really low note, it made your eyes vibrate to the point where your vision is blurry. And it's like, oh, my mothership's calling me. That it was really, really cool. There are lots of instances with infrasound that go way back. So there's one in particular, and I don't know if it was infrasound or just the whole experience of it, but you were talking about Sasquatch earlier.
Yeah.
Even though I've had my own experience,
and we need to talk about that. Are you willing to?
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Even though I've had my own experience, I still find myself being skeptical, right?
Yeah, we all do.
Yeah. And so me and my buddy, we lived in Skytook, Oklahoma. This is back in the early 90s. And we would go out at night every now and then, and like late at night, and go out to this bridge that's out in the middle of nowhere. It's over a creek that's, not a real deep creek, but under the bridge, it was about 4 to 6 feet deep.
Yeah.
And complete darkness out there. Well, we would take Roman candles out there and fireworks and bottle rockets and shoot them off in the water and just be stupid. And so we were doing our thing, and we're out of fireworks and we're just chilling. He's on one side of the bridge, I'm on the other. We're both looking over the edge into the water. And there are no houses in that area, no houses around, and not a whole lot of trees, just lining both sides of the creek, really. And, I hear a splash on my side of the bridge, and I'm thinking, okay, he's throwing rocks. I'm like, you trying to scare me? And he's like, wasn't me. And so then he hears a splash on his side, and now he's blaming me for trying to, mess with him.
Okay, so you guys, is this a railroad trestle bridge, or is it just a regular footbridge?
Just a road.
A road. Okay.
Yeah, a bridge, just a road. And
okay.
And it's like 2 a.m. So nobody was around. It's just complete dark. And
was it a full moon? I mean, was there sunlight?
There was, I don't remember if it was a full moon, but the moon was definitely out, and, it was lighting some things up, but where we were, there was enough tree cover right there by the creek, and it was a covered bridge? I don't remember if it was a covered bridge or not, but there was a little bit of light, right? So we're both hearing splashes on either side of the bridge. And then he comes over to my side, and then we hear a huge splash on the other side of the bridge.
Like how huge?
Yeah. So like somebody threw a boulder in the water, right? Like a really, really big rock or whatever, not just little rocks, whatever it was really big that splashed in the water.
How big do you think that was?
What's that?
How big do you think that boulder was?
I don't know. Maybe something like this, like a,
okay.
You know what I mean?
Like that big?
Maybe. Yeah. It was big enough to where you could tell that whatever went in the water had some weight to it, right? Be difficult for a guy to just pick it up and, so anyway, we hear the noise on the other side of the bridge. And so we go over to investigate, and right then, and this is in the middle of the creek where it's like 4 or 6 feet deep, we see this, whatever it was, rise up in the middle of the creek and walk down the middle of the creek on two legs, whatever. Wow. It was really dark in color. It was hairy. And I mean, it wouldn't have been an elk. There weren't any elk in that area. It definitely wasn't a deer. You know, a deer wouldn't be in that deep of water doing that. But it was when it stood up in the middle of the creek, and remember, it's around 4 or 6 feet deep right there. And there was a good 3 or 4 feet above the water that this thing, how tall it was. And, you know, so it's walking down the middle of the creek, and, you know, the hair on the back of my neck is standing up, and we don't know what to think. Cause my buddy, you know, he believes in Bigfoot, you know, and he's heard his stories. He spent a lot of time with, a Cherokee tribe, down there. And they, I guess their name for Bigfoot, I don't remember what it was. He told me their name for Bigfoot, and it's something different, but so I guess they have their stories as well.
Oh yeah. There's so many native names. I mean, there's, I'm sure well over 200 names in this country alone for that creature.
No, I'm sure. Yeah. And, you know, so he's kind of going off of the stories he's heard, and, you know, legends and different things like that. But we see this with our own eyes, and, you know, there's no explanation. They don't have bear right there. And, there was just no explanation for it. And I had never seen anything like that in my life. And we were a little freaked out, and we, you know, I don't know if it was just the experience of seeing that and how late it was, and just this and that and the other, how it was kind of messing with us a little bit. But we left. We didn't want to stick around and really see what it was. We were kind of scared. So,
well, the funny story is that I was talking to Tim, you know, I met Tim, 4 years ago?
Yeah.
And we were talking, and I was telling him what I wanted to do medically to film his vocal cords and his vocal folds, and, you know, really try to figure out, do a more of an in-depth study on what he's doing and how he's making infrasound, and how he's also making very high sounds. So I'm like, Tim, you know, these are kind of invasive, you know, things, putting a camera through your sinuses and and I said, Tim, how come you're so cooperative? I mean, why are you willing to do this? And he goes, because I had my own sighting. And I just about hit the ground. It was like beyond the coincidence. Really was. Because I just called you out of the blue one day. Yeah. As I remember. Yeah. It's just crazy. Now, this is the first time you have told this story publicly, I'm going to guess.
Yeah. I mean, I've told, you know, a few friends and family here and there, coworkers or whatever. But I've never gotten on the airwaves and said, hey, I've seen a Bigfoot.
How does it feel?
It's, you know, kind of crazy. I mean, I know what I saw, you know what I mean? There's when you see something with your own eyes, and there's really no explanation for it, based on the wildlife that's in that area, the part of the country, you know, the deepness of the creek, versus how much above the water line the creature was.
Right.
The fact that it was it was bipedal.
Could you have walked in that creek the way it did?
Well,
would it have been, you know, like your head just,
you know, I probably could have walked in it, but I don't know. If it was 6 feet deep, no way. I'd be underwater. I'm not very tall.
So you think you were seeing it from the hips up?
Yeah, because you know, we could see arms swinging. Mm-hmm. We could see shoulders. We could see head.
Okay.
Could you hear it walking? Could you hear it sloshing in the water?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. We could hear it going, you know, and it was walking away from us, thankfully. And actually earlier in the evening, it was messing with us as well, because my buddy Doug was telling me about the sounds that they make, and supposedly they will try to imitate other animals like owls, and
mimic animals.
Yeah. And I don't know if you've ever heard an owl in, out and about other than a zoo or whatever.
I heard a rooster sneeze once.
That's great.
In the middle of the night, and I went, something wrong there.
Yeah. That's the thing cartoons are made of.
Yeah.
But if you've ever heard an owl, they almost sound human, and their hoot is very, it's almost bellowing, really, and almost like they're trying to say something to you. Well, when we heard these sounds earlier in the evening, it was another, spine tingling, hair standing on the back of your neck kind of moment, because it was so incredibly loud. It felt like it was right beside us.
Wow.
And it probably was, based on where it was in the creek. But you hear this whoo, like just so incredibly loud, and you could almost feel it in your chest. It was just, the sound kind of went through you. And I'm sure my buddy remembers it as well, but it creeped the both of us out quite a bit. But we stayed and hung around for a while, and then we see it walking through the middle of the creek, and we got really creeped out, and we left.
Yeah.
So,
it's really interesting. A lot of us researchers probably all kind of came to this collective consciousness of infrasound. Because I heard a story back in '99 where Matt Moneymaker was blasting sounds in the Skooka Meadows in the Pinchot Gifford National Forest. And they were there filming a TV show, and two of my friends were up on the mountain, and this thing answered right next to them, the calls they were playing down in the valley.
Oh, wow.
And they told me, they said, man, our pant legs vibrated when this thing let out, And I went, isn't that infrasound? And they were like, yeah, maybe, you know what I mean?
Right.
And they said it felt like a subwoofer hitting them. But then other people were coming to the same conclusion, all at the same time. We were all kind of going, something going on here.
Right.
And have you maintained like an interest in the Bigfoot mystery, or have you just kind of ignored it pretty much? And because you've got such a busy career.
Yeah. I mean, I don't ignore it. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of stories out there that are, made up, and, a lot of fanciful stuff. It's like, that ain't right. And what's crazy is just about every video you see is that Bigfoot, or is that dust on the screen, or what is that?
Most of them are.
Yeah. And so, like I was saying earlier, I still maintain a level of skepticism, but at the same time, I know what I saw.
You saw one, yeah.
And, over the years, it's not, I don't really ignore it. I find it pretty interesting. I don't think that I don't think it's that far-fetched that these creatures would be out there and know how to keep a low profile, even though they're massive creatures. Do they exist? I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe it's something different. But,
I think everybody who's smart questions their own sighting, because you have to.
Yep.
Because the first thing when I had my first sighting, I'm like, is that a moose standing at the side of the road?
Right.
Am I looking at the butt? Is that an elk? What am I looking at here?
Right.
Until I got right up on it and could see the fingers, and it was doing like this hula hoo kind of drying off motion, because it obviously was wet.
Right.
And I thought, oh my God, look at the broad shoulders, and and you drive by it and you're in shock.
Right.
There couldn't have been anything else.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
So, all right. Somebody asked whether you could demo at will producing infrasound with your voice, or is that something you have to warm up for, or could you?
Well, yeah. I mean, I can go to a point. I don't know what I could do today, but I can do something.
It'd be fun to kind of see. It would be. People would be mad at me if I didn't ask.
Yeah, I mean, I can do something. I've, through my career, I've gotten to, I've been blessed to be able to sing in a lot of different places, a lot of different countries. And one of my favorite things to do is sing in other languages. And, I've gotten to sing in Russian, Chinese, Swahili, Portuguese, which, man, Portuguese is a beautiful language. It's almost musical when you hear someone speaking Portuguese. That's the most recent one I've done. But I actually did a song with this group, Portuguese or a Brazilian music group, and called Real Voice. And we did a song called Old Ship of Zion, and it's a song that I did with a group called Wow. I'm gonna get okay. Wow.
You're having a senior moment.
Yeah.
You're not even a senior.
Wow. Okay. So anyway, another acapella group. I'll think of it here in a minute. Anyway, we did Old Ship of Zion and Vocal Union. Good grief. It was the name of the group. And we did this song. And so then I got to do it in Portuguese with this Brazilian group. And, I think I remember some of those words. I can do a little bit of that. And there's a low note, a low note on there. Then I could probably do some lower stuff if you want.
Yeah, we'll just see what you can do.
Yeah.
If nothing else, it's gonna be interesting no matter what comes out of your voice.
Let's see if I remember the lyrics. No seguro navio está o capitão. Está por ouvir o meu nome chamar. Vamos a bordo a este navio e nunca mais passaremos aqui.
Yeah, that's amazing. Good job.
I can do let's see. Do ti la so fa mi re do ti la so fa. Yeah, I'm too dry.
No, that's amazing.
That's about it right now.
The thing is, your vocal cords are going so slow that you can, pretty much feel, certainly with my earbud in, you feel every little snap of your vocal cords. It's amazing.
Well, you just talking is your voice is so impressively low.
Somebody complained they were getting anxiety listening to you. Could be, it could be, because certainly all of us are affected differently.
Yeah.
Such
it can be therapeutic. Low frequencies like that can be very, very therapeutic. On
I hadn't heard that.
Different levels.
ASMR, or is that what that is?
Yeah, or like just the low frequency vibrate. Well, like if you take one of those massaging things, that for muscles or whatever, the vibration in those is low, depending on the type of vibration you use, and it's like a thump 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 thump, and low frequencies can being that they can travel through things, it would stand to reason that they can separate molecules to some extent, thereby releasing tension or whatever.
That's great. Did they have to use special microphones and equipment to record you for the world record?
Yeah. I used Brule and Kyer is a measurement company. They have measurement devices for measuring room sound, or actually the one that we used was one that they used to measure. It was a combination of a microphone and a testing unit that does the measurement, but it's commonly used to measure elephant noises, elephant vocalizations, earthquakes, dragster engines, things like that. And it's just the unit itself is not very big, maybe about like that. And then it's got a microphone coming off of it, really, really sensitive microphone with a ridiculous frequency response that can pick up anything. I just sing into that. I was probably, a good 6 inches away from that or so. And we had to do, we did it in a controlled environment, because you want to be able to differentiate between the room sound, the room noise, and what I'm doing. And because the frequencies are so low, even in a recording studio that is, whisper quiet, mostly soundproof, you're still going to get low frequency vibration coming through the walls and the floor. And so we had to do several room level tests to see what the room was producing at what frequencies and how loud it was. That way, when I did my thing, they could compare the two. And then even when I did my thing, they were able, the software that they used was, I'm sure, way ahead of its time, but it was able to, they were able to analyze the sound in several layers.
Wow.
So they could see, okay, this is the room noise, this is your voice, and then these are the different aspects of your voice.
So when you're singing, Tim, I don't want to interrupt you, but when you're
go ahead.
singing for this record, all of a sudden it gets to a point where nobody can hear you.
Yeah. Well, and, I had music professors. I had to have music professors there so that they could, make sure everything was on the up and up and everything like that. And they could, when you're in an enclosed space like that, they could hear and feel the notes down to a certain point. And then it got to the point where, it's, they're just hearing the movement of my vocal cords rather than a fundamental tone.
But you knew you were making the sounds. You must have felt the frequency, even though you couldn't hear yourself really either. You could only feel yourself, or what do you explain?
Well, when it gets down that low, then I'm hearing everything internal. I can feel it in my chest. In fact, if you were to tape microphones to my back or my chest, you'd be able to, it would pick up those frequencies if you had the right microphone.
Yeah.
But, it gets down to a point where I hear it all. I can feel the pressure in my ears, and I'm able to distinguish where I'm at on the scale, what octave I'm at based on, and part of it is mathematical. When you get down that low, you vibrate your vocal cords every so many seconds or whatever.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Or so many times per second. And so I think I've just internalized mathematically the feeling of the notes and where it's at on the scale based on how far apart the vibrations are in my vocal cords.
So if I was to ask you to try to create sounds that we couldn't hear, could you do that? Just start getting lower? I mean, does it have to start out higher and then you have to keep bringing it down lower and lower and lower? Is that how you do it?
You know, having asthma and allergies, it's a minute-to-minute battle for me.
Yeah.
Especially when I've been doing yard work for the past 2 weeks. But, you know, I can make some sounds and, you know, see where it goes.
It'd be fun to see if you could try to make a sound that we couldn't hear very well.
Right. You'd probably be able to, let's see, I don't have my pop screen. You know, like I was explaining how, you know, I can feel the pressure in my ears.
Right.
And so I can hear the note in a sense. You might get, you know, a sound like that, or you'll probably hear the clicking of my vocal cords.
Still be fun to can we try that, Tim?
Yeah, I can do that.
Sure.
Let's see.
You don't have to sing, just try to get your, you know, tone out. Wow.
Oh, it's really dry. Hold on. Really dry.
All right, you were getting pretty near invisible there. I mean, for a one point there, it was almost gone, but I could feel it in my ear. Pretty weird. One of the things I want to do with you is to measure how far away your infrasound can get.
Right.
You know,
as far as being able to pick it up or whatever.
Yeah. Pick it up. Can we pick it up a mile away? 10 miles? I mean, we have no idea. It hasn't been tested, but we're gonna attempt stuff like that for Legend Meet Science too.
Right.
I'm just amazed. Do you ever get people that walk up to you, like if you walk into you're talking to a cashier, does anybody ever comment on your voice? How low it is?
I scare people every now and then.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I hear people saying, "Oh, you should do radio," or you know, you should do the movie, you should do movie trailers or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
do you do voiceover work? I mean, just speaking voiceover work.
Yeah, I do some voiceover work, a little bit of stuff there here and there. I haven't been super proactive with it over the past few years, but I do some things here and there.
Why don't people put in the comments whether you'd like to see Tim narrate Legend Meet Science too? Actually narrate it.
I would love to do that.
Yeah, in the comments below, not the chat comments. I mean, you can do it there, but please put them down below. So how long have you been, I mean, did you ever just like have like a major interest in sound frequency? Because I want to talk about the wideness of your voice.
Yeah.
And so I want to start out by asking you, have you ever listened to the Ron Moorhead, the Al Berry Moorhead tapes? They call them the Sierra sounds, because in those sounds, there is this huge range that happens very quickly. I mean, what are your thoughts when you listen to those?
You know, it's funny how, you know, earlier I was talking about layers of sound, and, you know, how the testing equipment can differentiate between the layers of different layers and aspects of my voice. In listening to those tapes, there are definite layers to that. Many aspects of vocalizations and sound that almost sound otherworldly. They're just, you know, there are a lot of crazy, weird animals in this world that make really weird sounds. And, you know, the sounds on that tape are definitely unique. Everything from really low stuff to crazy high pitched
Right.
sounds that, and you know, I've got a pretty decent range.
Yours is what, 10 octaves?
Yeah, that's where Guinness has it at. I had it at 10 octaves, and then I broke my low note record again by a couple octaves. So, you know, essentially it would be 12, but how much of that is usable in music, you know? So, but as far as the high stuff goes, you know, I can sing high, you know, high for me, you know, but it takes some work to do it properly. For me being, and I'm just naturally a bass. I've always been interested in that. I've been drawn to low frequencies. And I mean, anytime I hear low frequencies, I just zero in on it and kind of forget what's going on. But yeah, no, those tapes are crazy with the sounds.
Well, they've passed so much scrutiny. That's where they really get interesting. I even spent a bunch of money and had Dr. Robert Benson down at Texas A&M analyze them. And he said the vocal track length, which is really wide, which I imagine you have a very wide vocal cords also, I would imagine. It's one of the things I want to do is measure your vocal cords.
Yeah, they're long. Yeah.
And he educated me. He said, you know, I can tell how big an animal is by the width of the vocal cords.
Oh, okay.
And he said that these Sierra Sounds put this thing at about 800 pounds.
Oh, wow.
The creature that made it. And I went, well, that can't be a human.
Right.
You know, and he said, yeah, no, it really can't be. And I can't find any. There was no manipulation that he could find. He was a bioacoustician was his.
Okay.
And I just find that so interesting. I mean, what would it take? I mean, could you try to produce that? You couldn't get that high, could you? And
no, I couldn't get quite that high. You know, it's and some of those sounds, it kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you've heard of Tibetan throat singing.
Yeah, we've been kicking that around lately about the similarities and the fundamentals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's you know, there are two sounds going at once.
Yes, correct.
And you know, of course, with those tapes, it seemed like there were more than two sounds, more than two frequencies going all at once.
Yeah, almost three or four, maybe.
I've done that by accident before.
Oh, you have?
Yeah. I kind of freaked myself out. I'm like, what the heck was that? You know, where you're producing a low note and then a note above that. And I haven't ever really delved into that too much as far as learning it and trying to be able to control that. You know, I've got a friend that used to sing with this a cappella group that he's doing solo stuff now, but he can do that type of throat singing where he can do a fundamental frequency and then do a high pitched melody on top of that and control it. And it's amazing the way that works.
And can we get your friend on Untold Radio?
Maybe, I don't know. God, he's pretty busy with tours and stuff. So
I would love to meet somebody like that. And, because, I mean, believe it or not, when we compare Tibetan throat singers, or even some of the throat singers of the far north and in North America here,
right,
it's the closest we can get on a spectrograph to a Bigfoot.
Right.
Sounds,
yeah.
Which is really interesting.
Yeah.
Because you wonder, were they mimicking? Was this used, I mean, basically to try to mimic what they heard?
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility.
Yeah, it's very weird. So, yeah, at some point, we're definitely going to include some throat singing in Legend Meets Science. Have you ever performed with a throat singer, with this friend of yours, or just a
No, he used to sing with a really popular a cappella group, and then broke off and you know, he's doing his own thing. He's out on tour right now, but solo career. But you know, I could hit him up and see if he'd be up for
I'd love to
coming
interview
on.
him.
I know
Really cool.
he's spent a lot of time in the sequoias and those forests, and he it might be something he'd enjoy. I don't know.
I was up north up at Snowgrove Lake once with my son.
Yeah.
And this is before we knew there was Bigfoot up there. But one night we're out there fishing kind of at sunset, and we hear this beautiful singing that was loud. And it did kind of remind me of throat singing, but it was kind of like operatic. There were no words, but it was just up and down and all over the, in the octave scale.
Yeah.
And it sounded like it was celebrating this beautiful evening. This weather we had was 72, and it was just gorgeous. There was no wind, and there were no bugs that night. It was in June, I believe. And my son has now he's gotten his PhD in sounds.
Oh, cool.
And helping people hear, and artificial intelligence and hearing. Very and I always wondered, did that trip must have had an effect on him? Because he was mystified. Yeah. We were all mystified. What were we hearing? So it was just crazy. I'm wondering if you could pull up a couple of things. Could you pull up that clip of Tim performing, just so we can kind of? I think there's some. I can't even remember the clip now. But one of the music. This one. Yeah, this is really interesting. This will give people a visual at how low Tim's voice can go. This is a photo or video of a subwoofer that they built into a pumpkin. Now, why did they build it into a pumpkin?
So this subwoofer is either a 32, I think it's a 32-inch subwoofer, 34-inch subwoofer. Yeah. So it's massive. And you know how most subwoofers, you can touch them and the cone moves back and forth, right?
Right.
This one, if you press on it, it does not move. The only way it moves is if you actually put energy into it.
Okay.
So singing into a microphone or putting music through it or whatever, it's got to have energy going into it in order for it to move.
But why did they use a pumpkin? I'm just curious.
So they like to do, crazy cool experiments.
Okay.
And we actually had hoped to install this thing into a pumpkin, and then I sing into the subwoofer and the pumpkin blows up. This pumpkin was close to 10 inches thick in some spots.
Yeah. So this is like a 500-pound pumpkin.
Yeah, it might have been. Yeah, it might have been even 800 pounds. It was massive.
Wow.
And so they installed this thing into this pumpkin, and kind of in association with this brewery and like a fall festival kind of thing. They even created a brew called Subwoofer Stout.
Oh, cool!
Just kind of in honor of this bass thing, this pumpkin, and with the bass with the subwoofer in it. But
it's funny because I found this accidentally one time on YouTube.
Yeah.
Quite a while ago. I don't know, it was a year ago or so.
Oh, okay.
And I just ran into it, and I thought, YouTube's always pushing stuff you're interested in.
Yep.
But there it was, and I thought, Anyhow, Alex, why don't you go ahead and play it?
Yeah. All right.
So because it's fall, I went and got a bunch of leaves. Right. I just thought that we could put them on the subwoofer and just kind of see what happens.
Gosh.
All right, Tim Storms, thanks for coming by and singing into my pumpkin sub.
All right.
Any last words before you take off?
Walk that long side.
So for all you audio nerds out there, that last note he sang was 15 hertz. All right, everybody, thanks for watching this ridiculous video. I want to thank Tim Storms for driving all the way out here and agreeing to sing into it.
Why don't you let him get his plug in, Alex?
I want to thank Eric at Silverfalls Brewery for providing the pumpkin. And everybody go order your bottle of Subwoofer Stout when it becomes available, or just come into the brewery sometime and check it out. I want to thank PA of the Day for helping me promote the project. Everybody go subscribe to Alpha Sound on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. That way you can follow all the other crazy projects we're doing, and share this video with someone who likes, I don't know, Tim Storms, pumpkins, subwoofers, beer, fall. It's like all the best stuff rolled into one.
I love it.
That's my buddy Devin. He's great. He's you could say he's an acoustician as well. He's a genius when it comes to sound and sound reinforcement and low frequencies and all that stuff.
Well, what other things have you tried or experimented with in moving things? Can you vibrate water by just without subwoofers? Can you do anything? I mean, that's really cool. Can you break glass? Is that even a thing? Is that even true? Can people break glass with their voice?
Yeah, and that's really more high frequencies that right. I'm sure low frequencies could probably achieve the same result on some level, but it's those operatic sopranos or whatever that can hit that high note, and that frequency, I think it just matches the frequency of the glass for loud enough and long enough to where it comes apart. Yeah. As far as the only time I've ever vibrated water was when I was interviewed by a news channel down in Missouri, and I wanted them to be able to see, what low frequencies can do, kind of as a visual, because it's low frequencies over the internet, over TV, don't really translate accurately, because I think you have a pretty steep drop off from 20 hertz and below. So I got just a cup of water, and we had the sound system going, and I sang into the mic, and the room, the subwoofer sound in the room, when I sang into it, vibrated the stage and then vibrated the water, and you can see the ripples in the water. I've never tried that, without a microphone or without, singing into subwoofers or whatever.
That would have been fun to see you at the sitting in the back or in the jury at the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial, and you could have been making infrasound and getting those guys really riled up. Yeah. Anyhow, okay. Another question. Do you, God, what happened? I had this question in my mind that was really good. Can't think of it now. Oh my God. I just had a Tim Storms happen to me.
Right.
You got hit with Infrasound.
No, it had to do with something kind of important. God, I can't remember. Oh well, let's change the subject. So, what other questions? Who's got some really cool questions in the audience? I've seen some really cool ones.
Well, one person was asking, when you get your voice really low, does that give your body any weird sensations?
Yeah, the coolest thing, I guess, would be whenever I make really low bass notes or whatever. It can make my vision blurry.
Really?
I think it just vibrates whatever fluid is, around my eyes or whatever. And, it's really cool because if I do low notes and I look at a digital clock that has the digital numbers, the numbers are doing this. They're like going back and forth. It's pretty cool.
So you're changing the shutter speed of your eyes.
Yeah, I think that's probably what.
God, that's absolutely insane. What other questions might people have here? Interesting. I'm wondering, I really think if you wanted to sell something really cool, Tim,
Yeah.
we should try to figure out how you could record infrasound.
Yeah.
And then people could play it on their iPhone and do research with.
All right.
You know, whether it's goofing around or whatever, being out in the woods, it'd be really interesting.
Well, what's funny is I did a project about it was several years, maybe 9 years ago. I did a short film, like a performance art piece for a couple of artists. They just in their research for low frequencies and elephants, they came across me, and they wanted me to take part in this project. And so as part of the project, they wanted me to sing a lot of French arias and different French classical music. They wanted me to sing it in a low range. And so I recorded, I learned all these songs in French, and I recorded all this stuff and sent it to them. They're like, yeah, that sounds really good, but you think you could do it lower? I said, okay. So I pitched it down and did it lower. And they're like, yeah, that's great, but we're thinking like a lot lower. I said, well, how low are you thinking? Well, we'd like you to do it so low that we can't really understand what it is you're saying. And remember, this is a performance art piece. And so I said, well, if that's the case, then I'm going to need a special microphone, and preamp to be able to do that. And so they bought me a Earthworks microphone with a frequency response down to almost 0 hertz, like 2 hertz or something like that. I don't know what it was. Really low frequency response and really sensitive. And then the preamp to go with it. And so I recorded all this stuff way below the piano. And then ended up having to, after we did the video, after we shot film, I had to go back in and basically re-record all of it, and kind of like an overdub. Had to match the movement of my lips on screen and all that kind of stuff. And we went into a studio that time and did it. And it was a lot of fun, because all it was 20 minutes of me singing almost everything below the piano. And there's some really low stuff in there, and listening to it, you're like, what? This makes no sense. It's me burping for 20 minutes.
So, okay. Remember the thing I forgot? I remembered.
Yeah.
I used to work with a couple of scientists, and we were doing and discussing disease.
Okay.
And they were working on trying to find a frequency that would kill cancer or cure other diseases, because everything, of course, they're learning this now, everything has a frequency.
Yep.
If you could find the exact frequency of cancer and then could bombard the cancer with this frequency, it would kill it.
I think there's a lot to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't you think in the future that sound is going to play a huge part in our health?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't find that far-fetched at all. I mean, I don't know if you've seen those videos, any videos online where they have this Ferris, what do they call it?
Oh, yeah, Ferris
Ferrofluid or something.
Fluid, yeah, and it's a magnetic fluid.
Yeah, yeah, and you put low sounds through it, and it's like you're seeing waveforms.
Yes,
different frequencies come alive. And it's crazy how
ferrofluid.
Yeah.
Alex, could you, I mean, I don't know, I don't want to get any copyright strikes, but could you find something, Alex, on ferrofluid?
Let me see what I can come up with.
This kind of crap.
Yeah, it's wild, because every frequency that they play through this stuff, you can see the different patterns, like geometric patterns, in this fluid. And so I don't think it's far-fetched at all to say, okay, if we can find the right frequency or combination of frequencies that can target certain cells or cancer cells or whatever, that can break them up enough to where they can be, taken out of a person or disintegrated or whatever. There's a lot to that.
It just sounds so non-invasive.
Right.
If you had cancer and you would go into a room and they would just bombard you with that frequency for an hour and you're done.
We need to get some government grants and research that.
Well, I would imagine you kind of wonder if they didn't figure this out, that it would be covered up because it would be just too simple and cheap.
Yeah, true.
There we go. Go ahead and play just 10 seconds of this. So this is this magnetic ferrofluid that we were talking about.
That stuff is really cool.
It is so weird.
Kind of looks like that symbiote or whatever that in Spider-Man.
Yep.
I don't remember what you call it or what they called it.
Yep. All right, Alex. I think we hit our fair use there. Scientific fair use. So Tate Hieronymus he had a one-word comment, Pantera, and I knew exactly what he meant because that means like a panther.
Oh, okay.
So, and you know how like a panther purrs or a tiger purrs, and of course tigers can do infrasound too.
Yep.
Do you have any special relationship with cats?
We actually have 2 cats.
Oh, can you communicate with purring?
What the purr in these cats, especially if you hold them up to your ear, the bass in that is just, I love the frequency.
It's infrasound, isn't it?
Yeah. And some of it might be as far as house cats.
Okay, well, here's a question.
Tigers, though, I imagine those would be quite a bit lower than your normal house cat.
Well, sure, but why don't you look up and see if house cats can produce infrasound, Alex? I'm really curious.
I know alligators do it too. Have you ever seen an alligator do that?
Yeah, and they can vibrate the water.
Yeah.
It's just
That's really cool.
So there's elephants, tigers, and apparently tigers use it to stun their prey.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's where they apparently can zap their prey, and it confuses them, and just enough, gives them a little edge.
I think the sight of a tiger running after me would be enough to stun me, but that's that's just me.
I'm just looking at some of the comments. Normally, I don't even read the comments because I can't. But Tate, if you're there, was I dead on your Pantera comment? Or no, maybe that's Panthera. Maybe he didn't mean that when he said Pantera. I don't know. But it's the Latin name for big cat, basically.
Oh, okay.
Or panther.
It's looking like tigers can produce infrasound.
Yep.
If I'm getting this right.
Yep, tigers, but can house cats?
House cats.
I mean, have you ever tried purring your house cat, Tim?
Oh yeah. I've held. There's one of our bigger, older cat. She has a really low purr. I don't think it's quite infrasound, but I've held her up to my ear before and kind of matched the frequencies.
Okay.
But one thing I've found interesting about a cat's purr is that they can make a seamless sound while they're exhaling and inhaling. It's almost like that circular breathing that a lot of musicians, like trumpet players or saxophone players or whatever, not trumpet players, but like saxophone players will use circular breathing so they can play longer notes. But
yeah, whatever circular breathing is, I have no idea, Tim, but as long as you know what it is, we're good. Anything on purring, Alex?
Well, they say that cheetahs and house cats purr at the same frequency.
Huh.
And Tim.
As far as infrasound, the animals that I've coming up with so far are elephants, whales, rhinoceros, giraffes, and alligators.
Whales for sure, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they because sound carries farther underwater, and I guess they're thinking that maybe a whale in Hawaii can communicate with a whale in Alaska, and that doesn't make any sense. But I'd believe it. I mean,
well, it's kind of like, with elephants, they can communicate over miles and miles, like 20 miles or something like that.
Tim, someone in the chat wanted you to communicate with an elephant with your infrasound.
Well, he tried. He said, we already asked him that. Remember at the zoo, I asked if there was any reaction to elephants because he said he did try.
Although I think it would be very cool, a really cool experiment if I could set up big subwoofers near elephants
and
try
it.
You know what I'm saying? Just see if they respond to that at all.
Because infrasound does not depend on volume, as I know it, but I could be wrong. Right. Because like a house cat, you would think it would be infrasound because it's vibration, but there's no volume there.
Right.
Because they don't have the size.
Yeah, for sure. I think not necessarily volume as much as power.
Yeah.
Being able to get that sound out there on a much larger scale versus loudness.
Somebody also asked a question that I wanted to ask anyhow. Have you had any other paranormal or just unexplained things that happened that you saw or experienced? Just, maybe something that just dropped into your gray basket?
The sighting in the creek is as far as paranormal goes is like the thing that stands out the most. I've had things where God is working in my life, and a lot of people try like to blow stuff like that out of proportion. I don't like to do that, but there have been moments in my life where I see God working, and there's no other explanation as to why this thing took place other than
like coincidences that
God doing his thing.
Beyond.
Yeah. So
Gotcha. I'm just scanning here. I hate to. Nope, I don't see anything. I don't want to keep you on your very valuable weekend. I'm sure it's beautiful there. You're in Idaho.
Idaho, North Idaho. Right. Actually, it's been raining a lot lately. So
is it raining today there?
We're supposed to get thunderstorms, and I think we're supposed to get like 2 or 3 inches of rain today. Flash floods and all that kind of good stuff. So
geez. Well, where can people find you, and what do you obviously YouTube? There's a lot of stuff on you and YouTube.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that people have put up on YouTube. There's my buddy Devin, the one that did the with Alpha Sound, that did the pumpkin subwoofer. He also did some videos where there's a group called the Discovery Singers, and I basically added in a vocal octave below what their bass singer or singers were doing, and we put that online. And then we also did the Lonesome Road video that's gotten quite a views on YouTube, quite a lot of views. And then other than that, I've got my website for voiceover. It's timstormsvo.com.
Okay.
It's in a terrible need of an update, but got some.
It happens quick, doesn't it? The website.
Yeah, it does. Yep. But that's for my voiceover work, and so.
Well, I really thank you, Tim, for taking your valuable time off, and
it is my pleasure. I appreciate
us and talking about all this cool stuff. And you're amazing. Please go get a drink of water.
I will definitely do that.
Thanks, Tim.
I appreciate y'all having me on.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Thanks.
All right.